hope you had a chance to maybe pour yourself a stiff drink during that break, because the government plans to boost public funding of the monarchy by 45% from 2025 in a cost of living crisis. The details of the increase were revealed in a review of royal funding published by the Treasury on Thursday. It states that the royal family's grant is due to increase from 86 million to 125 million pounds. Big figures indeed, I think you'll agree. Meanwhile, we're heating and eating, struggling, aren't we? Any case, joining me now is royal commentator Michael Cole to explain what exactly is going on here. Good afternoon, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Michael, what's going on? Does the King deserve this? Is it actually a pay rise?
Good afternoon, Dawn. Well, the money isn't going into the King's back pocket. Most of this money, this increase, goes in salaries of people who work very hard to support the constitutional monarchy and the refurbishment of royal buildings. Now, there's a huge wholesale refurbishment of Buckingham Palace going on. Buckingham Palace is a very strange building, Dawn. You can walk down a beautiful corridor with masterpiece paintings on the walls and gilt and chandeliers, and you turn through a door and you're on civil service linoleum. There are dusty old central heating pipes, and the electric wires are hanging off the walls. Now, this place hasn't been renovated since the days of the King's great-great-grandfather, Edward VII, and it's going to cost a lot of money. Now, the boost will go, as you say, up to £125 million, but it will revert after 2027, after 2 years, to a more reasonable sum. But, you know, royal finances, it's a political football that's kicked around all the time. The fact is that if you have a head of state, you have to pay for it. There are 193 United Nations, and all of them, I think, without exception, has a head of state. And if you have a head of state, you have to maintain that head of state in a suitably dignified way. Now, in America, the American presidency costs the American taxpayer $1.4 billion a year. And on top of that, they pay the salary of the president, which is $400,000 a year. Well, the King doesn't get paid. I'm not an apologist for the King or for the royal finances. I'm just saying this is the reality of the modern world. It's a big jump, but it's necessary mainly to make Buckingham Palace look better.
Thank you very much, Michael Cole, explaining exactly why King Charles is worth this pay rise. Now, let's see what my panel make of this. Senior political correspondent, Daily Express, Christian Calgie, and former Labour MP, Stephen Pound. Christian, we're going to come to you first. I mean, it doesn't play out well with the public, does it? This huge amount of money.
I think it's unfortunate timing, and especially after the coronation, but I think the increase, you know, if we take it as necessary for Buckingham Palace, is not to do with King Charles, and if Queen Elizabeth had still been alive, the increase would have happened anyway. You know, I work in the Palace of Westminster. I'm very aware that a lot of the greatest heritage of these islands is not in a good shape, and we have to invest. Whether we had a monarchy or not, we'd want to look after and repair and restore these palaces. So the spending is necessary. It's also worth remembering that a lot of the royal family's income is proportional to the amount of money that the Crown estate makes. So it goes up if the royal family are actually putting more into the public coffers. So I think that's an important argument to make as well.
It's quite a complicated formula how this is work. You know, I mean, we could spend the next hour explaining exactly how it
was
happens,
developed when one of the previous kings went bankrupt. So they handed over all the profits from the estate to Parliament, and they then get a percentage of that back. So I think it's always important to remember that when we talk about what the royal family receive, their lands are putting much more than that into the Treasury for public services.
Stephen, surely it's got to be worth every penny.
I was slightly demur with the description, their lands. You know, I'm not entirely sure what that means. I prefer to think of them as our lands, the people's lands. But look, there isn't a read across from the President of the United States. I mean, a lot of that money is actually security, because I think about 4 of their presidents have been assassinated. I think we've only topped one of our kings, or, well, 2, I suppose. suppose it were one of our queens, we can't marry Queen of Scots. But look, the awful problem here is that the King's got far too many houses, and there's also far too many in the wider circle. Now, this marvellous expression, grace and favour accommodation. Now, I would love a grace and favour place down at Hampton Court Palace, or, one of these palaces dotted around the place. Why is Prince Andrew still getting a rent-free accommodation? Wouldn't it be easy if we just trimmed a little bit of the surplus away from the royal family? A lot of the people you'll have heard of, but I bet 90% of your viewers have never even heard of them. So, look, Prince Charles, God love him, he wants to go and live in a yurt in Somerset. We all know that. That's where he'd be happier. But, he doesn't want to live in Buckingham Palace. It's a very, very good museum. It's got a lovely picture gallery. I've been there a couple of times. Amazing place. Let's make that a museum. Let's Prince Charles go and live in his hut if he wants to.
Turn it into a giant museum, make a load of money, put it back into the economy. Everyone will be happy?
I have to say, I wish I'd said that myself.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much.